Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. Let's go over it. Let's talk about stock market's expected moves and just kind of give my opinion on them nonetheless. And I literally just had it up. Give me 1 second. So we are going to break down the dollar, the Russell, the NASDAQ, the S&P. In between there, sorry, after the dollar, we're going to go over Bitcoin. And then just my overall opinion. I'm looking for one thing. There we go. Here's what I'm looking for. So here's the expected moves right now. I'll give you guys this. This is something I usually throw up inside my group. There's an indicator. That's what we'll be going over today. So we got, anyway, screenshot it. Let's rock and roll. All right, first and foremost, I'm short the dollar currently, but because I'm short the USD Japanese yen. I was actually long the Euro USD. We took a zone play on that, right? So that bounced out. Then ended up tagging out on Friday. So we'd have taken a nice move from there to there. I gotta say that might be. I'm not getting out of my USD Japanese yen, but I am gonna have to take the opposite play on this. So overall, I'm thinking lower high. 'Cause if we're looking at the dollar, right? So let's go to the weekly. The purple zone is a weekly zone. Now we just got into it, but we spent 2 weeks inside this, and that tells me we might be basing out for a move up. So I might actually just go long this to kind of hedge that play. All right, so I'm gonna be long with the stop. Yeah, it's 115 pips away on the daily. No, hang on. I was thinking about putting a stop right down here, playing the overall trend. I'm gonna put a stop right below here. A little bit better. That is 45 pips away. We're going to submit that. All right, we're good there. So what that'll end up being is a long the dollar play. Let me show you what I actually just got into. Get off the weekly. So anyway, right there was the 115. This is 45 pips away right here. So I'm long this, stop below here. Kind of bull flag or reversal. When you see a wick like that on anything, guys, it's a sign of rejection. It's a sign of what's to come, depending on your bias and where you land as far as your opinion goes. And if you just want to sit in an echo chamber, man, I'm really hoping the dollar breaks down. I really am. But right now, I do have to worry about that because we came up, we hit that zone, pulled back, made the higher low, jumping up into that and hesitating. So I'm thinking we might actually break to the upside on that one. That could spell trouble for Bitcoin for anybody that's hedging the dollar with the Bitcoin. But we'll have to see. Right now, Bitcoin continues to make higher lows and lower highs. Les says my call out for mentorship tonight is the Euro USD. You can skip that now. Nice. Got a new format. I'm going to try not to read. Oh, even Cody said it. My admin already said it. He said Don will not be reading the chat during the first few breakdowns, just so everybody knows. That is just so everybody can just come on here and just get to the facts. I ADD it up a lot and I repeat myself a lot. But from now on, I'm going to record a whole bunch of content. Everyone in the group, you're about to see a new channel that I'm just going to fill up. Every time there is a question that gets asked, I'm just going to record a video and post it in there. So it should be a whole library of questions. And it should smooth things up for those that just come in and just want the zones, the direction, the sentiment, the answer key to tomorrow. You can jump in here and get that right out of the gate. If you are new here or coming back, what I'm thinking is these live streams might be about 30 minutes. So don't let that time confuse you. Come in here and get the first all the meat, and then what the side dishes are after. That's when I'll turn to the chat and see if anybody has any questions. All right. As far as the Russell goes, man, so we have banks start tomorrow, right? Is it who's reporting tomorrow? We have earnings coming up. JP Morgan is going to be on the 12th, so that'll be Friday. Let's see, Wells Fargo. Is that also Friday? Also Friday. Bank of America. Is anybody reporting tomorrow? Hang on. So next Tuesday. Who was I looking up that had earnings tomorrow? Sam says great content and channel. I appreciate that, but to be honest, I clicked a few extra buttons. Right now, I'm streaming on Power Zone Trading, Don Fron Show, and Don Fron Trading. So shout out to whichever one you're on. I'm on all of them. Okay. What was another bank? Trying to see if there's anybody. All right. Let's just talk about the XLF. See what we're looking like there. Hang on, that came out wrong. As far as financial goes. All right. So, and let's talk about this because we had this last week. For the past few streams, we talked about this trend up that's been very awkward, very eerie. And then I multiple times had talked about that red day when it does finally show up is going to strike like lightning, and that might be the start of a downturn. And XLF kind of shows that off amazingly. So I'm curious, did we just remove some risk, buy the rumor, sell the news events as we start to kick off the next round of earnings? But we'll have to keep an eye on financials because that could likely it's the biggest in the Russell. But right now, we're still holding that trend line. Here was your just meltdown. We held that zone, but still down. So currently, your trend more on the small end, still very much in a downtrend on the daily. We have a green open so far, but a lot of time before the market opens. So I would be watching for the breakdown on that one. All right. As far as last week's expected moves, these are all. Hang on. Actually, you know what? We're going to come back and adjust these lines so that'll make a little bit more sense. Talk about the NASDAQ real quick. All right. So we went, first of all, let's get into a smaller time frame. We went for it. Oh, it was the S&P hung out at 1. Absolute meltdown, breakdown. And then for anybody that wasn't there, yeah, we went bullish at the end of the day. Just before that dead cat bounce up, I thought Friday would be bullish kind of regardless. Friday to me was going to be bullish or sideways. There was just no, like, if we were to continue further down, that'd be capitulation. That would just be everybody going nuts. Right now, I got to say, I got to be bearish. Overall, before you get too ahead of yourself on the bearish side, this woke a lot of bears up for sure. The NASDAQ is still flat out going sideways. So for now, if you really want to hang tight, what is your risk? Like what are your parameters? How comfortable are you with risk in general? Because if you sit this whole range out, I promise you're not going to miss out on anything. The stock market's not going anywhere. It's still going to be here. But futures, that's a lot of trades inside there. QQQ has a lot of options. There's a lot of trades that can be made inside. This is a huge range as far as trading goes. But as far as a swing trade or anything like that, swing trade, I'd rather buy down here, maybe sell puts down here, maybe be a little bit more cautious at the top, but we're nothing. Until this market picks a direction, there you go. Like sideways. Sideways is the direction. So don't get too just like tunnel vision, just narrow focused on something and let that chop you up 1,000 times because it's not going to feel good and you won't know it until later. When it becomes choppy, the sooner you can recognize it, the better because hindsight is going to tear you apart later. We're like, oh man, I should have seen that. And realistically, by the time you take let's say you just get chopped up, 100 losses. Looking back, you realistically could have told by your first couple or if not few. So be careful with that. All this red candle shows me is we're getting volatile. And previously I was talking about these red candles. I was like, guys, these are these little choppy red candles. Like they're nothing. This was a warning sign. And I kept saying like Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, somebody is clicking the market sell button and just dropping chunks. They're getting out and they're not giving anybody else they're not sending out a memo. It looks like they finally just said, get rid of the rest of it. All right. So as far as the S&P, never mind. It was these red candles because we had a drop here, based out, and then another drop. And I was saying like this is weird. Again, it's not the levels because everything was still bullish. It's hard to short a trend that looks like that and for so long. And I get it. The stock market, it was, you could say overbought. You could say a lot of things, but that trend was just too calm, cool, collected, very systematic. And then we got this. And I was like, and that's again, if you were here last week, for sure on the YouTube channel, Don Fron Trading. It should not have been on Don Fron Show. I'm on it right now, but Don Fron Show is strictly AI now, AI investments, AI, a lot of stuff. But stocks, everything else, Don Fron trading. I don't know where Brad's at or when he's coming back or if he's coming back. So I don't want to speak to that. But anyway, I did not go short this. It would have been great because we went zone to zone, hung out. We hung out for a little bit. It was more like it felt like an eternity. On the 5-minute, we bounced around here, then went to another zone. Ultimately, bounced right there. And right now, again, depending on where you're looking, you're probably on a much smaller time frame, thinking you're bullish. Bigger time frame, okay, bearish, lower high. Even bigger than that, not quite the sideways channel. I don't know. I gotta say, we just put in our first lower low and a warning shot. So I grab puts. I am short over the weekend, and I don't care about this little green candle. Too much time to be worried about that. I guess if we were to get above this zone right here, I don't know what I would do, to be honest. If we shake this off and we're at all-time highs again, there's just no reason to be short. And there's quite a few bears in my chat, and they hang tight. They're patient, right? They wait for the sniper's choice. But if we shrug that off into here, what are you doing? Like, why even waste your time going short at that point? Maybe sell some out of the money calls, about as short as you can be in this market. But I'm hoping this is ultimately a sell off into a deeper pullback, to which I will be buying the dip. But right now, I think if this is the start of a sell off, I think we got a good few red days in us. So that could be cool. I guess if you're just a perma bull, for some reason, there's a lot of people that don't know how to short the market. They just get so confused by it. Maybe they don't believe in it for some weird reason. Whatever the case is, maybe we just don't load up allocation-wise right here at the peak. If it's going to be a few red days, and maybe you like it right here. If you like it right here, you're going to love it down here. Hang tight. Let the red do their thing. And then that way your average is much lower. You're in a much better position. This is the time where patience will pay. And I think right now, if you're not jumping in the volatility game, then I think you at best need to chill, hang out, set your alerts right here. Hang on, right there. Right there. Like, hey, wake me up when this breaks. Until then, enjoy your time. Go do something else. Don't lose any sleep trying to trade this up, because when it gets choppy, a lot of times, most of the time, 80% of the time, you'll win some, you lose some. It'll just be a net, just BS waste of time. Then there's that 10% of the time you'll lose every trade. The 10% of the time you'll win every one because you're just unstoppable for some reason. A little bit of luck on your side, but numbers game, when you're jumping in that volatility game, is it worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And ask yourself that before we jump into this, because the market really just threw off a pretty decent warning sign. So give me 1 second, guys. You can hang tight. I'll try to keep an eye on the chat, say hey to everybody. I'm going to toss in the expected moves for the week, and then we'll be rocking and rolling. Inputs, all right. 517, 941. S&P's 890. A lot of these are smaller. Let's see. Meta 1941. What are you guys' thoughts? Well, I'm turning to the chat now. That was the market breakdown, my opinions at least. But everyone else, what are your thoughts on just kind of everything? You bullish? You bearish? Was last week just a nothing burger to you? We shook that off. Small little 5.5 earthquake on the East Coast. That was it. Was that earthquake all we see in the market, or is that just the trimmer, right? The heads up. How did you take that sell off? Personally, you guys know my opinion. Take that as a we're getting crazy. AMD 867. And I know a lot of people do still have Ford in their account, so let's put Ford up there. Ford was 51 cents. There we go. All right. Now, if you guys ever see these lines and you're just confused as to which ones they are, that's the indicator that I just put in. But I do like to put these lines over it, just so I can see as they change, just visually for me. So that's all these are. They're not support resistance levels, but you will probably ask that a couple times as you watch me because it's going to be awkward if you don't know what these levels are. You'll think they are sorcery, just coming in here and watching things bounce off of it. Tesla, I gotta say, man, Tesla shrug all of that off. So if there's any bullishness, well, I'm just staying the course, right? I might get a little more aggressive on Tesla the way it did shrug all that off. If you guys have been following me for a while, then you know I've been selling the 160, 160, puts on those. It's just weekly free money. Free internet money is all that is. I might bump it up because the way the market had an absolute meltdown, there's been no good news for Tesla. And as far as the cars go, I don't even care about the cars. It's the robotics thing. But because it's still operating on cars, and they're talking about canceling the Model 2, which Elon first said Reuters was lying. Turns out someone's been playing a little vocabulary gymnastics. The Model 2, everyone's thinking, is actually going to be the. Hope I'm not speaking out of context on this. The robotaxi. And I'm with Elon, by the way. Like, it doesn't make sense to have a $25,000 car or $20,000 car if you have the robotaxi. You'd make way more on the taxi. Who cares about a $20,000 car? I'm sure a lot of cheap people do, but the cheap people, they're the ones looking at their budgets and, worrying about money. They're probably going to hail a Tesla. Why not? Why even worry about the car insurance and all the other stuff when you can just have a Tesla come pick you up as far as full self-driving goes and all that? You don't have to worry about being Uber and somebody being late. The car's just going to show up. It knows when to leave. It knows everything. So business-wise, I think it's a much better move. But I think a lot of people, investors-wise, were really focused on Tesla's little bitty car. That was not going to make or break anything. I don't care. That goes there. Let's talk about two more things real quick before we get out of here and get to the mentorship group. Hood. Let's pull up the expected moves for Hood. 124. A little bit of a lesson here on Hood as well. So as you guys know, Hood went into the growth account. We bought it at 17, 18. I just messed that up. We'd bought it and then sold the 18 strike calls right after it. And then after that, they announced the Robinhood Gold credit card, and then it just shot up, right? It went nuts. And my thought was, and I think everyone's thought was, like, do we take the L on the contracts? Because we sold the contract against our shares, right? We collected that money, and then it shot up. And what I did was I told everybody I'm going to make that decision next week. When you're an option seller, I just don't like making knee-jerk reactions. So we had it, and then it had just blasted up. And so all we did was we had rolled. Now it was in the money now, but we still rolled and collected the same amount of theta. It is weekly theta. In the money, out of the money, it's all the same. It's about the relative distance from at the money. $1 in the money versus $1 out of the money still pays the same weekly amount of theta. So we rolled it, and it kind of hung out, rolled it again. So now we're on our third week of premium, and it's pulling right back. It looks like we're going to come out smelling like a rose. Eventually, that contract will be worth zero. And we'll just be good. We'll have our shares. We'll collect all the rent. We'll keep going. So if the sell-off does continue down, I still very much like this ticker. It will stay in the growth account. We just got to collect a bunch of free money on it. So hopefully that was a great example for anybody as far as like option selling goes. Had you made any just knee-jerk reactions, any emotional decisions, you would have made a mistake. You would have lost the absolute most you could on that, and then beaten yourself up when you see this. Steve says CPI is on Wednesday. Will be important. May just tread water until then. Okay, you may just tread water until then. Yeah, that might not be bad. And that kind of goes back into what we said with SPY. And let me bring that back up real quick. So we have this range. this range, and we got some letters coming out this week, right? Some, the nice excuses. Let's bring them up. All right, so we'll get to our economic calendar. So the 10th, CPI, more inflation stuff, FOMC. So 10th and 11th. So Wednesday and Thursday, PPI, we got the letters, right? The alphabet news. And who knows what Fed member, whether they vote or not, have any power or not, might open their mouth, maybe post a tweet and send the markets, wherever. I think people tend to think the talking matters. What do we got? Consensus 312. We'll see what that actually is. See if we're running hot or not. So that could be a great excuse to move this thing. And is that going to move it up, down, a little bit of both? Never trust the first move. Sometimes it's a volleyball spike, right? You got to set it before you spike it. And I just told you guys, watch out for this range. And we have news, and we're smack dab in the middle. We know the sellers are here. We know the buyers are here. That's one thing we know right now. But what we don't know is how many of each are there. So if there's a time to sit out, again, probably is this time. Let someone else go have their fun. Can we talk about that meltdown? And Meta closes at $1 or $2 from 3 standard deviations. Oh, Meta. Meta. Well, if you're a follower of my channel, then you're probably in Meta, unless you're just weird or broken. Maybe you went short Meta. Maybe you just went long Meta and you just hold it. Until Meta turns around, I don't know why you'd be anything but bullish this. Absolute cash cow, especially everything you just heard from NVIDIA as far as Earth 2 goes, the digital world for robots to play around and get stronger and better. Everything about that, I'm telling you guys, they're going to flip that switch. It is going to be the metaverse out of nowhere. Meta is the king. It is. There's a reason why it's my number one position in my growth account. My long-term account. We've had some hard times. Yes. When it was at 90, but I brought it back with open arms, nursed it back to health, and here we are. Me and Zuck, we go hand in hand. Abraham says, "I guess I'm weird." Anyway, I just couldn't imagine being short this thing right now. Now, NVIDIA is trying its hardest to grow its way up there. Hopefully, NVIDIA chills. Vincat, Subramania? Anyway, you know your name. I don't, clearly. Thoughts on the Robotaxi? There's 2 thoughts on the Robotaxi, because it's not going to be here tomorrow. And then even when they have it, it's not going to be here tomorrow. There is the transition period, and then there's the after. So if technically this is the before, you have the middle, and then the after. The after, it's going to be booming. I think it changes a lot of things. And the Robotaxi, I think, ultimately will be probably more short-lived than anything else, because once you have full self-driving, it won't just be a Tesla Robotaxi. Once people start to see that take off, it'll be like Ford and everyone else. When they see Tesla doing it, they're going to make their own fleets. And it'll just be a bunch of cars driving themselves around. And then at that point, it changes the automotive industry. Automotive, I think, is going down. Another reason why I'm selling my Ford shares. I've had them for a decade. They've been a phenomenal part of my portfolio as far as a dividend, a weekly dividend, because I collect money on it. I snowball that into more, but I'm selling it now because they're going away. The Robotaxi is just going to be the beginning. The Robotaxi, when it comes out and passes regulations, and that's going to be the biggest spot. Before we just let these 1-ton vehicles just roaming the streets, just giant hunks of metal with a ridiculous amount of torque and horsepower, way more than any gas vehicle, for anybody that doesn't know anything about cars. It's true. Performance-wise, they kill it. There's going to be some hurdles. And Elon doesn't play the politician game. You've already seen how Chevy has the Volt roaming around California. And then there's Waymo. They're moving into other states, and hopefully that lights the way. It's kind of hard to give GM. I think as a politician, it'd be kind of hard to give GM access, but not Tesla. Granted, Elon does a great job of keeping everyone's opinion separate than his. So people will have no problems ditching a Tesla and riding in a Chevy just because he's not a Democrat or whatever their reasons are. He's only helping himself out from that. So not only is he not paying and playing the politician game, He's just pissing off a lot of his audience, that especially in California. Uh, so I think the transition period is going to be much longer than people think. Even if full self-driving came out tomorrow, full self-driving doesn't crash, doesn't do anything, it'd be a million times better than any driver on the road. I think it'd be illegal for anybody to manually drive. Imagine how stupid you are compared to a robot. Uh, they just think faster. So my thoughts are, I really don't know how I would divide that. It's not something I really worry about with Tesla. If you are worried about it, maybe that's a reason for buying Tesla. There will be millions of flags saying, "Hey, this is coming." It's not going to surprise you tomorrow and gap up to 100,000. Elon did say he's going to unveil the Robotaxi August 8th. So there's your buy the rumor, sell the news event. Assuming he does have one by that time, doesn't extend it or anything like that. It's Elon. There's not much else I need to say about that. For the day, truck drivers are safe from automation. Fact for the day, truck drivers are safe from automation in California. What I think would be cool, and what I really want to know, is how does it affect the railroad industry? Because Elon showed off something a while back. Now, it was semis and then convoy mode. So even in convoy mode, there was one driver, 7 semis or 4, and they're literally following each other 4 feet from each other. And there's one driver, the rest are just copying the lead car. That's like a train on asphalt. I think that could be really cool. Now, the sheer tons of coal that trains move, I don't know, but that's kind of where my thoughts were when all it does come. I think when it is approved via politicians, whatever, they are allowed to be on the road. I for sure would not want to be an Uber stock. Probably anything automotive, anything that makes an automobile, I probably wouldn't want to be in, because why would they continue to make them? There will be few that I still am going to own my own cars until I physically can't buy them, and then I'll just have whatever ones I have left. But I think there's going to be the newer generation. They're not going to buy it. Why? You've already heard about how much they complain about how they don't make $60,000 a year working at McDonald's, filling up the French fry containers. So they already can't afford to not live in their mom's basement, let alone go buy another vehicle when they could just hail a ride everywhere. So longer term play, I think it's going to be huge. But that's going to be plenty of time involved in that one. Looks like Elon is worried about earnings, unveiling before earnings. I would say Elon probably is worried about earnings. There's a lot of CEOs that are worried about earnings right now. Which is interesting because we get the feds coming out. The feds are coming out and they're saying a whole lot of stuff. Everything's good. Inflation's good. Everything's under control. Soft landing. A lot of CEOs during earnings calls or interviews are the exact opposite. So I'm very curious how this next earnings season goes. Cody says Uber to zero. Steve, do you want me to break down the ticker shop? Fast food worker minimum is 20 an hour in California. Yeah, you'd be balling if you made 20 an hour out here where I live. But California also ridiculous. The only way I could live in California is if I was homeless. I like the idea of 70 degrees year round. That'd be it. There's no way I'd pay to live there. Yeah, I guess that's my thought. Matt says he doesn't like money. Well, Matt, you should have bought Meta a long time ago. How many times have I been telling you this? Matt, you are a dividend person. You are known as the dividend guy in our group. Meta and NVIDIA, 2 out of my top 3 are dividend tickers. We think alike, Man, hang on. Let's just go over this real quick. April 8th. Earnings Whisper. Shout out to Steve posting this in the chat. All right. Tilray. Okay, Tilray has earnings Tuesday. Probably the only one worth talking about, and only has a momentum. WD-40. I don't. That's recession proof if there's ever anything. Hooker. You know, when times get tough. Okay, we already know Wells Fargo, J.P. Morgan, BlackRock, Citi. Okay. So it looks like nothing really is. I wouldn't care about Delta Airlines. It's cool that the doors don't fly off. That's a positive. Maybe they'll talk about that in earnings. Pot stocks have had a lot of talk, a lot of chatter this week. Germany made it legal. Let's just talk about Tilray before we get out of here. This is a classic. We will get one rate cut or zero. I think we'll get one at the end of the year. I'm sticking to that. You probably need $30 an hour to live in California. So they're both getting paid too much and not enough. Yeah, California's weird. They just need to start over. Start the thing all the way over. Everyone involved from the mayor up. Broom them all. Get them all out. Every single one of them. Every politician, everything, anything. If you had to make a decision other than what time should I get up in the morning on a Saturday, out of office, out of work, out of nothing. And let's just rehire and revote everybody in. I'd go out to California just for that. All right, Tilray has earnings. If anything, there'd be a run up into earnings, and I bet it would sell off. It would just be a momentum play. So someone asked me to break it down. I actually took a pot stock last week. I forget which one it was. I'm sure my group will let me know. It popped up. We put our stop in the green, trailed it. That was it. Sold it. All it was, Sundial. Thank you. Anyway, and I said a million times, I do not care about the pot industry as in correlation to the stock market. There's the real world, and then there's the stock market world. And anybody that thinks it because it was legal, all of a sudden their stock is supposed to do well, it's silly. This is a momentum play, and that's all it is. And when this sells off, it's going to look like all the other times. I would much rather entertain the idea of shorting this when it does turn. At least, no, never mind. If it got a lot higher, I would. There's just no meat on the bones. By the time it turns, it breaks 230. It's probably headed south to maybe 130. And for some, that's probably a really good play. The amount of risk I'd be putting up for that, I don't think it's worth it. Sundial, we made 20% in one day. Yeah, it wasn't a bad trade. The same reason people prefer a physical book versus digital book. People will like to drive their own vehicles versus automated driving. That will be illegal. People laugh when I say that, but it would be exponentially safer, better, everything better if it wasn't both. The second everything is automated, no more human intervention from the random idiot that thinks he knows how to drive. I've seen you guys. I know how you drive. You don't. Okay, I feel like I'm the only one who knows how to drive on the road. That'd be it. Over with. Just a million times safer. It'll be illegal. Let's get back to the point. When there is just cars driving by themselves, you could eliminate stop signs, street lights, literally everything. That's all stuff for the humans because we don't know how to do anything. Computers would all be able to, and if you've ever had a Sonos sound speaker, that's what I bring this up. The more Sonos sound speakers you have in your house, the stronger the network is, and cars could talk to each other, all having one giant network. They would know where every car is at. They would know traveling at 60 miles an hour would reach this intersection at this time, and comfortably at 52, you breeze right by it, not have anything to worry about. Sounds crazy to you guys if you, don't know how things work. But I do think they will make driving illegal. So cool. You can have your car just like your physical book, but it'll be trailered to a track, and you'll go out and drive there. Kind of like when you go roller skate, you get to go drive in a circle for a little bit. That's it. I've been driving those street lights for 2 days now. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here, ladies and gentlemen. You'll see me Tuesday. Hopefully I'll see you guys all there. Make sure you do the thumbs up, the subscribe, all the cool stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.